So this video is for the guitar solo from Rockin' All Over the World. It sounds on the record like it's being played by two different guitars because the second guitar comes in, the second part of the solo comes in over the end of the first part of the solo. So what I'll do is I'll first of all play the first part of the solo and then break it down into 2-bar chunks so we can have a look at it in detail. Then do the second part of the solo, again break it down into 2-bar chunks, and then at the end there's a sort of an outro solo that's fairly sort of basic and straightforward, so we'll go through that one as well. So here's the first part of the solo. So we're starting off with, we're up on the 8th fret because it's in C, and we're playing the bottom 2 strings here, so the bottom 2 strings of that bar chord, and then we're going to start on the 8th fret of the G string and we're going to do a little hammer on. So we're hammering on from the 8th fret to the 9th fret, and then we're doing a double stop, and double stop's when you play 2 strings at the same time, so we're going to go. So that's a hammer on 8 to 9 on the G string, then the 2 strings of the B and the E string at the 8th fret, so you do that twice. Then you move, now you need to move your hand down for this bit because you want your 3rd finger on the 8th fret of the G string. So after going, you're going to go 8th fret, 7th fret, 5th fret of the G string, down to the 7th fret of the D string, and then back to the 5th fret of the G string and play that twice. So it goes. So 8, 7, 5 on the G string, down to the 7th fret of the D string, and then 2 times on the 5th fret of the G string. So altogether that's... Then we're again on double stops, so we're playing the B and the E string, and we're on the 13th fret. We're going to do the 13th, 11th, 10th and 8th. Now there's a little slide here, but it's not a kind of a... It's more that you're just sliding onto it as you start playing it. So if you find that very quick slide hard to do, just play it straightforwardly. So 8 double stops, and then on the 13th fret with the B and the E string, down to the 11th fret, 10th fret. So. And then you're playing this double stop on the 8th fret 4 times, but on the 3rd time, you put your 3rd finger on the 10th fret while still playing it as 2 notes. So altogether it's... So 13, 11, 10, 8, and then that finger going on to the 10th fret of the B string. And then again some double stops, so hitting the 2 strings on the 8th fret twice of the B and the E string, and then the 10th fret of the G and the B string, and then down to the 8th fret of the G and the B string, and then again hammering on that 8th to a 9th fret on the G string. So you're going to go. So double stops on the 8th fret twice, 1 hit on the 10th fret of the G and the B string, 1 hit on the 8th fret of the G and the B string, but with a hammer on, and then you're going to play the 10th fret of the D string, 8th fret of the D string, down to the 10th fret of the A string. So all together, and then you do that again. And then you're doing double stops on the 10th fret of the A and the D string, again with a very quick slide. But again, if that slide is hard to do, because you don't want to be going... It's just kind of sliding as you play it. And you're doing that quite a few times, I think 16 times actually. I'm just having a look at my tab. 16 times. Now at this point, the second guitar comes in over that playing that, but we're just going to treat it like one guitar part. So the second part of the guitar solo goes... So we're starting off on the 15th fret of the B string. We're bending that up to the 17th fret note. And whilst playing that, we're also playing the 15th fret of the high E string at the same time during the bend. And then when you got the bend up there, 3 times on the high E string. Bend again 1 time on the high E string this time. So it's... And you want to be playing both strings at the same time throughout that bit because you can hear them clearly ringing out together. And then you, on the 15th fret of the B string, you're going to bend that back down again. So you start with it bent up from the 15th up to 17th. Drop down to the 15th, 13th, all on the B string. 14th fret of the G string, and then back to the 13th fret of the B string. Then you have this really nice little run. All the notes are very close together, so we're bending up. So we're bending up the 15th fret of the high E string. Then we're dropping it down and playing that note, the 15th fret, followed by the 14th fret, followed by the 13th fret. Then the 16th fret of the B string, 15th fret of the B string, 13th fret of the B string. So then we go to the 14th fret of the G string, back to the 16th fret of the B string, back to the 14th fret of the G string, and finishing on the 13th fret of the B string. So all together it goes. Bending again on the 15th fret of the B string. So we're kind of, so we start with it bent up, drop it. So drop it, 13, back to 15 on the B string, back to 13 on the B string, and then 14th fret of the G string and 13th fret of the B string. Now this last bit's probably the hardest part of the solo. You're bending the 15th fret of the high E string up and then immediately dropping it back down. So it's bend up, back down, and then you're back up to this note, but I think to play the next bit where you have to bend the B string, you need to just use your pinky for that note. So rather than going bending it to get to that note again, you bend it once, and then you play it with your pinky. And then you're starting that 15th fret of the B string with it bent up. So that's why you need to kind of play that with your pinky so you can then... So it's... So bend 15th fret on the high E string, then play the 17th fret of the high E string, bend the 15th fret up. So you bend up, drop it down to the 15th, down to the 13th, 14th fret of the G string, 13th fret of the B string. And then you finish off with this little slide down here. So what you're doing, this is a C chord, C bar chord. You're going to take these 3 notes, and then you're going to go to the 6th and 7th fret of the A string. Well, actually, it's a little slide, I think. You slide up from the 6th to the 7th fret. And it's slide, 2 double stops. So 6 to 7 on the A string, and you're playing the 5th fret of the D and the G string. And then at the end of the song there is a solo during the sort of after the last choruses as the song, I think it fades out when at this point. It goes... first part comes in before the bar actually starts. So that's 5, 7, 8 on the G string. Then you're doing this pattern 5 on the B string, 5 on the G string, 7 on the G string, 5 on the G string, and then those two notes again, 7, 5. So the whole thing goes. So that's the kind of sequence. Does that again. And then changes from that note to this note. So that's 8, 5, 7, 5, 7, 5. Then you play the 8th fret twice, down to 7, 5, all on the G string, and then that 7 to 5 bit again. And then this time, instead of then it does the 5th fret one again. So 5, 5, 5 on the B, 5 on the G, 7 on the G, 5 on the G, 7 on the G, 5 on the G. And then the last run is a bend from the 7th to the 8th note. So this time, instead of playing the 8th note, you're going to bend up the 7th fret to the 8th note. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. And then you do a very quick drop down. So drop it, take it off to the 5th fret, back on the 7th fret of the G string, down to the 7th fret of the D string. And then finish on the 5th fret of the G string. And play that. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times. That kind of on-beat, off-beat kind of pattern. So it'll be going. Except the last two where you play them both on the beat. Okay, so just to go through that again, it goes. And after that final 5th fret on the G string, you then go back into the sequence, but you start on the 7th and then the 8th. So the first time you go, and the second time it's the, and then 7, 8, and then back into the pattern again. And that's the solo from Rockin' All Over the World by Status Quo.